Hello, welcome to another edition of Oklahoma Politics and You. I'm your host, Steve Byas. Our guest this evening is Mike Reynolds, and my co-host Gary Cooper and I are going to be discussing some issues about the state legislature and some other things that involve the Prince of Darkness down there in southeastern Oklahoma. Representative Reynolds, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, first off, let's kind of introduce you to our viewers. Tell us a little bit about your family and educational background, and before you get into the politics.
Sure. Well, my wife's Nancy. We've been married. Our 27th anniversary was last Sunday. I've got 3 children. One's making the mistake of following me. He's class president of the sophomore class at Oklahoma Baptist University, and I've got a 7th grade new football star, and then my daughter's in Anchorage, Alaska. So,
okay.
And that's my personal background, my education. I graduated from the University of Oklahoma.
Okay. And then you got into politics. Kind of tell me a little bit about what motivated you to get involved in the political realm.
Well, that's an interest. That word "then" doesn't quite fit because there was about a 20-year gap. I had 2 or 3 different motivations. One was I'm a computer software developer, and I bid on a contract in the state of Oklahoma, and was discouraged at the outcome. They awarded the bid to a man that had been unemployed apparently for 2 years, apparently fired from his previous job, and bid almost 4 times what I bid. And I seemed to think that there might have been a small discrepancy there.
Okay.
So that was one motivation. And then I began working or I didn't begin working, but I had worked for a number of years for a company that you might be quite familiar with. Company called Golden Arrow Gas Energy.
Okay.
And so we could spend many shows on that, and I'm sure your viewers have heard of that before.
We have spent some shows on the Ron Miller death, yeah. Okay.
And I was their computer consultant.
Okay.
So I had an intimate knowledge of that, and I was in town the day that Nora and Gene Lum came to town and bought the company out.
So you knew Ron Miller.
Oh, yes.
And Mr. Kitchens and all that. So that maybe we'll have you back.
You'd forgotten about that, huh?
Maybe sometime we'll have you back on a program on that. But let's go down to southeastern Oklahoma. The Gene Stipe has been in the news. The state auditor, Jeff McMahon, has been in the news. Remember his campaign slogan when he ran was "McMahon can," and what was it? He can. Tell us all about some of the background to what's been in the news.
Well, I think most significantly right now is that in a strange quirk of fate, Mr. Stipe's attorneys are claiming he's incompetent while he's disavowing his attorneys and claiming he's completely competent. And that would, I think, seem typical of that type of politics. You never quite get the truth out of it. It's always just what's convenient. And I think that after 80 years, that's finally caught up with Mr. Stipe. And I'd have to say I'm not one that has sympathy for him being just a tired old man that we ought to leave him alone. I think he's exactly where he belongs today.
Well, you know, it's interesting is that, you know, most people don't want to send 80-year-old men to the penitentiary, but it's sort of like he's taunting the public. He's taunting the legal system. You know, they gave him a break, and even after that, he continues to do the same things after that.
Apparently 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I mean, golly, when the guy's too ill to travel to the court to be sentenced and he's off in Arkansas getting a marriage license on the same day, yeah, that was definitely, in my mind, taunting. And I think it'll be good for people that might try to avert the laws or whatever, to understand that even if you're 80 years old or you're 90 years old, you can't escape from that. We're going to see that justice is served, and I think that's finally being done.
Well, tell us, you know, the state auditor, his name has been linked with Gene Stipe, Jeff McMahon, and they served a search warrant Tell us a little bit, what was that all about? Just tell us what's been in the news, and then if there's any other insights you want to share with us.
You said this is a 28-day show?
28 minutes show.
28 minutes, gosh. Okay. Well, most of it has been very well reported recently. I've been highly interested in that for quite some time. Gary Jones, my good friend, has also been interested in that, and
State Chairman of the Republican Party.
State Chairman of the Republican Party, and Gary began, I guess, looking at that probably 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years ago, when he became concerned about campaign contributions that were being made in the state auditor's race. During that same time, I was concerned about a lot of things that are considered economic development, and I, as a small government conservative type of legislator, don't necessarily believe that a lot of things that are promoted as good economic development are good programs.
Yes.
So I began trying to determine how money was going out from various state agencies to various private entities with what appeared to me to be little or no accountability. And at the same time, Gary was interested in this stuff because of some water issues and campaign issues. And I know one day there were two benchmark events for me in this saga. And one was one day I was coming back from Tulsa, driving down the highway with Gary actually, and he got a phone call. So I got on my phone since he was on the phone and made a call to someone. And as we were driving down the road, we realized we were both talking about the same deal, and neither one of us knew the other one knew anything about it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a revelation. And then shortly after that, Gary had an occasion to go over to Lake Eufaula to visit with a bunch of people that were called Save Our Water. And the levels of Lake Eufaula had dropped dramatically, and there were a lot of people that were upset about that, and they were afraid that their water was going to be sold out of state, and we still have some of those fears. But I networked with a lot of people there and began discovering that maybe some of these tax incentives also had something to do with the sale of water and possibly with campaign contributions. So it's quite complicated, but that's basically how we came at it.
Okay. Gary, you ready to ask our
Yeah, I was just going to say, for a lot of, I mean, for those of us who are activists and really are on top of these things, we gobble this stuff up and want justice done, etc. But an awful lot of people out there, including probably a lot of people who watch our show, probably watch the news coverage and maybe have some trouble connecting the dots. So let's start with one important thing. Okay. In the case of Mr. Stipe and some of the things that he was involved in, what was the harm done to our political process by the kind of things that Mr. Stipe was doing? And then let's cross that over of what's the harm being done to some of the things that you're involved in now with the water issues and everything else.
Well, the specific things that Stipe are accused of is basically helping people get elected to office through inappropriate means, through the funneling of money, totally inappropriately, illegally. So I guess the first harm is just the perversion of the process, the people that are making individuals, casting votes, and trying to evaluate. And I'm not saying that everybody that received money from Gene Stipe or donors, straw donors from Gene Stipe, doesn't evaluate things properly or knew the money was coming from there. But certainly that potential exists, and so that's the first deal. You question even the reliability of a person's decisions that are receiving money from that side, and that's one harm. The other harm is it appears from the information I've seen, it appears from the indictments that have been handed down that millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, have gone off to the personal benefit of certain people. Not the least of them among them is Gene Stipe and some of his cohorts that are included in these indictments. So connecting the dots, I think actually you've just got one big axle in the middle, and you got the spokes, as opposed to a dot-to-dot type of game. And I think that we're finally unraveling that.
So basically, it boils down to attempting to steal elections and steal taxpayer dollars, essentially.
I think that'd be a pretty close characterization.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. Steve?
Okay. One of the things that is kind of, I guess, related, not directly to Senator Stipe and McMahon, the state auditor, and that sort of thing, but the whole idea of how our elections are conducted and ran and won, and over the years, and I've been involved directly in politics for a long number of years, and it seems to me that our state legislative races, there's been an evolution. Used to, it seems to me that a person could decide to run for state representative without just a whole lot of money, if they were willing to use a lot of shoe leather and walk door to door, knock doors, and they could actually pull off a win by just meeting all the people. It seems like in the past quarter of a century we've had an evolution to where it's almost like, and don't get me wrong, I don't think all consultants are bad, but it's gotten to the point it's almost like a lot of consultants feel like that the candidates are working for them instead of the consultants are working for candidates. Am I mistaken in that?
That would be the impression I get of some of the consultants. It's like, yeah, we've run your race. We know what it takes to get you elected. It doesn't matter what your positions are or anything else. We just need to do the fancy advertising, and
as long as you have an open checkbook, we'll take you on.
Right, and not only that, but we'll help you raise the money. If you come to us, then somehow we have access and we're tapped into this huge pocket of money. So yeah, you're going to have to put some on the line, but we'll help you. If we charge exorbitant fees, that's all right. We'll help you raise half of it.
Yeah.
So that does seem to be, you know, and what's amazing about that is most of the upsets are pulled off by guys that the consultants won't touch. The only races they go after are the ones that were going to be a slam dunk for a particular person anyway, a particular party. It's going to be a totally Republican district, and they're going to go work real hard to get a good Republican elected because they can raise a lot of money there, but he was going to get elected anyway. Or they're going to work real hard to get a certain Democrat elected. He was going to win anyway.
Yeah.
It was a primary thing. And the consultants all claim we don't work in the primaries. I mean, most of the party consultants. So
they say that.
They say it. It's not the truth.
I know that Randy Terrell, who's a state representative here represents the west part of Norman. He was certainly not a candidate of the consultants, and yet he beat him like a drum.
Beat him like a drum, and that's shoe leather, and that's hard work. So we didn't really go back to your point about money. No, worn out shoes will beat money almost every time, but you're going to have to wear those shoes out. You're going to have to get out there and work. You, of course, know, I guess I'll always go back and I'll always be encouraged by the first political race that I was really, really involved in, and that was my brother's upset of a long-time incumbent Democratic state senator,
Ben Brown.
Ben Brown. My brother beat him with $17,000, and the day my brother filed for office, Ben Brown had $125,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
Ben Brown just didn't plan on spending 8 hours a day for 5 months knocking people's doors.
Yeah.
So, so the shoe leather, but you got to be committed. You have to really want it.
Yeah. Well, here's a trivia question for you. You remember State Representative Bill Graves, who's now a judge.
Good friend.
When he was first elected state representative in 1978, do you know who he defeated in the Republican primary?
Well,
this is trivia. I did.
You know, I'd probably.
His name is Ralph Harvey.
Oh, is that right?
And Bill Graves was outspent 10-1. But Bill Graves won. You know why? Because Bill Graves was a lot younger back in 1978, and he went door to door, and he won it.
Well, and Bill Graves' signposts, don't tell him this, he may try to come reclaim them. His signposts are in my parents' barn out back, so I can use them for the next campaign. So.
Well, that would be good, wouldn't it? So, you know, and this is not something we discussed beforehand, but you know, you were talking about the Ron Miller deal. it would take a long time for us to kind of see how that
not more than
connects
10 years
with the Corporation Commission. But I was really disappointed at the vote at the Corporation Commission on the Chesapeake. You know, Chesapeake didn't want OG&E to do the coal fire plant, and it seemed like it's political grandstanding by our state treasurers involved in this, and there's a lot of things behind the scenes involved there. You know, that coal fire plants produce electricity a lot cheaper than natural gas, but so it seems like it's kind of self-serving at Chesapeake to not want a coal fire plant.
Well, frankly, whether I was for or against Chesapeake is irrelevant. They're a private company, and I think they had every right to do what they did. On the other hand, I think Treasurer Meacham is off the charts in what he did.
Yeah.
I guess the corporation commissioners need to call Mr. Meacham up and start advising him where to invest our state funds and everybody else, because we don't think he's investing them in the right places. The
Corporation Commission went beyond their constitutional area in deciding how to manage a company instead of...
Well, you know, I read a story just today that gave me, because I haven't followed that. That wasn't my decision to make. The Corporation Commission made it. But I read something today that even gave a little more light to me, and it indicated that we passed a law in 2005 that may have some area of concern about interpretation. And so I'm not going to question what the Corporation Commission did at this point, because I don't have enough of the facts to know.
My understanding is the intention of the law was to make it where, you know, these companies could go out and make investments and not have to worry about 5 years from now saying, well, you couldn't have done that. And so, and they just kind of turned it on its head, you know, by doing this. Let me just give you a bill that was voted on in this last session.
Sure.
And get your comments on it. There was a bill by Representative Mike Shelton and Senator Richard LeBlanc, okay, a Democrat from Hartshorn, was intended to give a state sales tax exemption or rebate to a hotel developer for materials used in the construction of a particular hotel facility located in close proximity to a licensed horse racing facility, which also conducts gaming activity authorized under the State Tribal Gaming Act, Remington Park. And that actually passed the House 54-40, but it died in the conference committee. That's amazing, you know, that, I mean, I cannot imagine how state legislators would think it was okay to give a tax exemption to a specific hotel.
Well, we give away tax dollars to specific. I mean, we're all going to be riding the rocket plane to Mars pretty soon, right? So we give away tax dollars like it doesn't cost us a thing, and that's because it doesn't cost us a thing. It's somebody else's money that we're giving away. Now, I'm not inclined to do that. So, but that bill was a rather amazing bill, actually. In fact, I think I was probably the first person that stood up on the floor to debate that bill the day it came up. And I don't know if you, as you described it, I don't know if it had the specific words, but what it said was that basically any...
Well, it didn't mention Remington Park, I don't know.
No, it said any motel that was within 150 feet of a racetrack that had casinos could be exempt from paying sales tax. Well, golly, I mean,
how many racetracks?
Yeah,
how many are there?
It's like 3.
Okay.
You know, but we all knew it was about Remington Park, and then it became about economic development for that part of town. And gosh, what a great economic development thing! We've got all these wonderful facilities up here, and we need to have a place for people to stay. And I'm going, if you've got all these wonderful facilities, we probably need to develop economic motels in places that don't have all those. I mean, you know, what's the argument? It's whatever folks want it to be at the time.
We have a lot of economic development bills out the legislature that it's economic development for certain special people. It seems like that's what it is a lot of times.
And I wouldn't use the term people. That ultimately everything is for individuals, but it's for certain areas. And I mean, it goes back to the Bricktown Bass Pro argument. I mean, do we want to give them a break and put Academy or some other wonderful sporting goods company out of business. I don't. That's got nothing to do with capitalism and the free market, as I understand it.
Certainly not.
But what was really interesting about that bill is it really didn't pass 54 to
40.
To 40. That's the strangest bill that I've ever been a part of. The bill ultimately, when the votes began going up on the board, and usually that takes a couple or 3 minutes, took a significantly longer, and it was stalled out, and it finally got to 51. And so as soon as it got to 51, they gavelled the vote closed, and then they discovered that one of the representatives that voted yes on that bill wasn't in the building.
Not even in the building.
Not even in the building. And so to save embarrassment, they worked a deal to bring the bill back to the floor on a motion to back. I don't exactly. It was a weird process to bring it back and vote on it again. But in order to do that, they had to get some individuals to agree to go ahead and vote for it who hadn't voted the first time to give coverage to folks. And there's never been another bill in my 5 years at the Capitol that we've gone through any sort of nonsense like that. So it was interesting, not just from that tax aspect, but from the whole process of the bill being passed. And then it went ahead and died in the Senate anyway. They should have saved themselves the embarrassment.
Okay. Well, Gary, we've got about 3 minutes left.
Yeah, I was going to ask another question here, Representative Reynolds. A lot of people, particularly in the media, have a tendency to paint the Democratic and Republican parties as black and white, and Republicans are all right-wing extremists, and Democrats are all knights in shining armor. As we're seeing now that we have a Republican majority in the State House and a tie, basically, in the State Senate, we're beginning to see that no, not every Republican is a conservative. Not every Republican is as far to the right as we would prefer. And you, for one, have been one that had been kind of seen as a maverick by some, because you stand up for things such as some of these bills that have bipartisan support but really ought not to. What do you think is the greatest danger to the Republican Party and what it stands for now that we do have a majority in the State House and a good chance to get a majority in the State Senate? What would be the biggest danger you think that you see to us being in that position?
Very easy. It's already been demonstrated. For the state legislature, the Republicans in the state legislature, to act exactly like the Republicans at the U.S. Congress did. Because we start going against the things we ran for, the things that we told people we believed in, and now we start showing, oh, maybe we didn't really believe in those things. Maybe we believed in pork barrel spending and other things. That's fine. The Republican Party will boot us out of power, and they ought to. So I think it's already been demonstrated as to what happened to us in the last election cycle, and I hope that that my colleagues are wise enough to pay attention to that lesson.
And of course, we also have the option, being a Democratic Republic, I guess you could say, of primary elections, which might be a good way of maybe holding some Republicans' feet to the fire, huh?
That certainly works. The activists have an awful lot to say about what goes on in a primary, and so, and there's the old saying that you run to the right in your primaries, you run to the middle in the general, and that's a shame, but that is how it works sometimes. But I'm glad that voters themselves, particularly ones that are interested in the process, can put pressure on their representatives to do what they elected them to do.
Good. Steve?
Well, we've got about a minute left. What are the prospects for Representative Reynolds? Is there maybe a run for governor or anything like that in the future?
No. People have asked me what the most significant thing that I want to accomplish as a legislator, and that was to see good people elected to office, people that knew why they voted the way they voted, and that were honest in dealing with the situations. And we're getting a lot of good people elected, and that's not to say that there's weren't a lot already there, but prospects for me are just I'm just worried about tomorrow. Next year, whatever. And I have never entertained and don't entertain any idea of ever running for any other office.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming on the program this evening, and good luck in whatever adventure you take off. I'm sure you'll hold their feet to the fire, including our Republican leaders.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
and myself.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us this evening, and please join us next time for another edition of Oklahoma Politics and You.
Is that all right?
It was.